Thank you very much. Now, this afternoon session, we have a panel, a Women Tech Connect panel, which is going to be moderated by Nurani. And we've got some lovely panelists, some interesting discussion. So, Nurani.
Thank you so much, Esther. And actually, I'll just invite all the panelists to come up, and as everyone gets seated, we can hopefully get started. So this is a Women Tech Connect panel discussion, and we are very blessed to have some fantastic panelists with us today. And as they get seated, I'll ask them to actually introduce themselves. So you can see who they all are. We're missing Isabel.
Should we move down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the purpose of today really is to have an open discussion about women in tech, and the title we gave it was actually why we're still talking about this. Because we have had these Women in Tech lunches, Women Tech Connect lunches, Tech Girls lunches or socials, women networking dinners and events since I started in the industry, and it was a very long time ago. And while we see a lot of changes, we can also see that there's still a lot of challenges for women in this industry. So what we wanted to do was actually to look at, you know, what are the challenges that we still have? Are there things that have changed? But we also decided to make this a positive panel where we're actually going to ask, I'm going to ask all the panelists, but actually also all of you in this room. At the end of this discussion, when you've heard of some of the challenges or some of the positive examples that you've heard, if you can all think of 1, 2, or 3 things that you think that, okay, I'm going to commit to doing this to be part of the solution. So I'm not going to force anyone to come up to a microphone, but I'm hoping that the discussion itself will inspire people to come up and say, okay, I think I can do this, or I already do this. I've been doing this for many years, and I think it makes a difference. So with that scene setting, I'd like to introduce our panelists. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, so please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Nathalie Munyampenda. I'm the CEO of Kepler. Kepler is an education organization that owns a university and other things. And prior to that, I worked on a continental project to improve science research, but also engagement at an earlier level.
Thank you. My name is Gaëlle Nsengiyumva. I'm a software engineer and currently working as a project manager at the Rwanda Energy Group. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ghislain Nkeramugaba. I'm currently a consultant at the Internet Society.
Hi, everybody. My name is Isabel Odida. I'm the pairing manager for GCO. I'm also the founder for UGNOG and an instructor for the scalable internet services for AfNOG. And I also do online course moderating for ISOC's technical courses.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much for that. So if we start by looking at some of the challenges that we still have. So some of the things that we talked about was, you know, everything from starting up, you know, choosing your education, to choosing your career, to hiring process, and then actually when you're in the role. Does anyone want to speak a little bit about challenges you've had in reaching where you are today on that journey?
I guess I'll start. So I would say that as a young girl, I was, I'm probably one of the first female generations to be highly encouraged to step into the STEM and technology field. So I was, I think, exposed to that from a very young age. I had an uncle who used to repair computers and kind of got me into it. And that's where my love for computers started. Again, I was fortunate enough to be encouraged to pursue math and physics in high school. Later on, went to do computer and software engineering in undergrad. But I would say to your first point about why are we still talking about it and why is it still relevant? Personally, I think we've sort of made a really good step forward in getting more women and girls in STEM, but we're having a harder time retaining them in STEM. So I think that the particularly relevant topic now is to keep women in STEM, because I know that even as a woman in STEM, there's times I've struggled with staying in technology. Do I stay here? Do I move into a less technical role so I can balance my work life better? So I think that's a discussion that is really ongoing and very important to have. Thank you.
Thank you, fantastic. I want to come back to that part about when you've actually entered into a role of a technical role or a technical environment or industry, why people move out of it. But if we go further back, I don't know, I hope you don't mind, Ghislain, if I ask you, I know you have a daughter who's currently now in that very age where she's choosing what to study and yeah, you've had some conversations with her about it and trying to navigate that space.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I have an 18 years old girl who is choosing right now a path for her undergrad. So it's a history which is to be continued. So it's an ongoing conversation even currently. So there are many things that on the table, pushing her, encouraging her, not to be discouraged, but what she sees around her, but as well, making sure that you don't push her in what she doesn't like or want to do to please, because it is a topic where we want to see more girls into STEMs and so on and so forth. So it's a balancing act, I would say. You encourage, these are the opportunities. You show the perspective, probably she doesn't have, you know, if you do this, if you do that. But it's a balancing act as a father to guide her, and the choice will be and will remain hers going forward.
Yeah, thank you. So because you talked about how you had an uncle who helped raise the interest in you. What about the rest of you? What made you take that path to start with?
I think mine is almost similar to what Ghislain has done with his daughter. I expressed interest in the industry at a very young age, and my dad was very supportive as well, same as my brothers, because they had taken the same path. So I think it was quite easy for me, and they made sure I got prepared and equipped with everything that I needed. I think right after high school, I got enrolled in 2 different colleges, started doing, I think I started with software engineering. Actually, I had initially wanted to become a software engineer. And then uni started, and I said I still want to carry on with doing software engineering while I do uni. So they said, okay, we'll try and make it work. If it doesn't work out, maybe stick to one, but we'll still support you, whatever it is you choose, whatever it is that you decide. So I did my software engineering course for 3 years, same time as I did uni, same time. So I went to uni during the day, and I went for my software engineering classes in the evening. And while I looked for internship, my dad went and had conversations with some of his friends if they could get me internship roles. So it all started from being supported by my family, like he's doing for his daughter. And I won't say I think I've been quite privileged, or I have been very lucky that even when I started working, the first team I got enrolled into had been really nice. I got enrolled into a team of 7 gentlemen, and I was the only lady and the youngest as well. among them. And I think in our meetings as well, on the agenda of all our meetings, I think the very first agenda I remember so clearly was, how do we make easy comfortable? How do we get, what does she need? Small things like that. And even let's say I was sad at work, we had our resident DJ on the floor play a song, my favorite song to make me happy. I think he's here, James Biarhanga, Raxio managing director. So I will say it's been a simpler journey for me than it has been for most women. Hence, we need to have this conversation so that the other women get to have easy and comfortable journey as some of us have.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, it sounds like all of you are actually talking about the importance of the support and you know, growing up, also having that maybe one person or a team of people who actually supported you. But not everyone has that, of course. But I know, Nathalie, you have a lot of thoughts and done work with young people and universities. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? And maybe particularly those who don't have that uncle or that father who pushes them in that direction.
So I was reflecting yesterday because I've sat on a lot of women in tech panels, and I love the topic of how can we end the women in tech panels. But unfortunately, it's going to be a conversation we're going to continue to have because the numbers are just not there yet. And I think I like to look at systems, as you said. What happens if you don't come from a family that can afford boot camps and connections? And you know, my daughter is currently going through. She's 6. She's not yet 6, but she's going through a STEM and robotics camp, right? All summer. And you know, today she was showing me how to fly a drone, which I don't know how to fly a drone, right? So she was saying, "Hey, mommy, you have to do this." And so if you don't come from a family that can afford to send you to summer camp to do robotics, or that does not go to private school where you can actually be exposed to these concepts, where will you be exposed enough to choose a career in tech? I think that's the first question. And that's a wider, you know, national conversation around public schools and how do we do that in a way using our environment to teach these concepts and you know, join that with play and learning so that students enjoy it. I come from a family of engineers, and I actually was going to be an engineer, and then I left, right? And I didn't leave because someone hurt my feelings. I left because I didn't like it, right? And now I manage engineers, and I'm, you know, paid much better than they are. So and I'm saying that only because we have to open up young women to all the opportunities they are in product management, in you know, the narrative around products, how are people selling the products, etc. So that we don't say either you're an engineer or you don't matter, right? That's number one. Number two, I think, you know, I sit on a board of a tech company, and, you know, I'm very excited about what they're going to be able to do. And we just had a board meeting like a week ago, and I was the only woman in the room, like the entire room from every level, right? And so I asked the CEO, who's an amazing guy, you know, what do you notice here? And he was like, oh, you know, he was trying to tell me about the products. We're making sales. We're doing so well. Look at the things we built. And I said, but what else do you notice here? And I said, there's no other woman in the room. And then, so if I had not come to this meeting as a board member because I had something to do, or I couldn't, because I had my own board meetings the next day, if I'd said I can't make this meeting, there would be no women. And I said to him, the problem with that isn't because of the number. The problem is that not having women on tech teams has consequences for the people who are buying these products, whether it's safety and other things. And, you know, I asked him, so, you know, how many women do you have on your tech team? And he says, oh, you know, HR is women, finance is women. And I said, no, but you are a tech company. So the builders of your products, how many of them are women? And he said, oh, you know, we had a couple that were coming through Carnegie Mellon. And I said, so what did you do to retain her? Which is what was her point, right? So what did you offer her? He said, oh, she's going back to do her thesis. And I said, yes, but what did you give her so that she says at the end of her thesis, I'm definitely going to work there? And I think a lot of times the women in tech question is seen as a barrier or a numbers thing. Hey, we need to find them. But if you're really creative, in the same way that you recruit the best talent all over the world, if you're very smart about where you're recruiting, whether it's at university and et cetera, then you're able to build in the pipeline, which is the concern. And if you already think about it as we're retaining the best talent, this talent, this young woman needs these accommodations versus this, Google has perks that they give all engineers and, foosball and all these other stuff. Think about it in the same way. What do we need to give these talented women for them to stay? So exposure at a young age, retention from, I used to explain to ministers back in the day how few women are coming through the funnel. So many software engineers, even, not that many, but once they get into and coming out of the funnel to do a master's and PhD, 1%. And so you're telling me to come on this panel, but there's just not enough women in the first place, even if all companies compete. So there's multiple layers that are systems issues. And one of the things I have to say, I really dislike the thing of saying, how do you feel as an engineer? Who helped you become an engineer? People choose what they're exposed to, right? Exposure and passion allows people to choose the careers that they want, right? So we shouldn't make it more like, hey, how can we make young women in love with STEM? We need to expose them, and those who stay will stay. I don't know if that's a rough conversation, but I feel like a lot of women are asked a lot, how it's almost like a flowy conversation when really the issues we need to fix are systems issues.
I really like your point also about if you're actually developing products that are supposed to be bought by, a wide set of people, why shouldn't you have a wide set of people actually help set the requirements and develop those products? Because otherwise you get products that might not quite understand the uses of them, right?
Yes.
So I think there were a few very interesting points there actually, and everything from choosing STEM to start with, but then that funnel that you're talking about. And I think there've been a lot of discussions maybe in recent years also about the recruitment of young women into tech and some of the challenges. There's one of the things that I've had very interesting talks about is how we don't think about how we put together ads, for example. So we write job ads in a way that, matches probably what the manager thinks this job should be. And if the manager is male, they will write it in a way that attracts similar type of people to who they are. So actually being conscious of writing that ad in a way that it attracts other people who are not like you, be it women or younger people or people from other regions or different backgrounds. There are a lot of studies also that show that diverse groups are much smarter groups than just homogenous groups, right? So just talking about that recruitment process a little bit, because that's another one that's often, identified as an obstacle. Does anyone want to talk about that? Challenges that they had both in recruiting, but also then going through that, or maybe even positive experiences where you feel like this actually really helped me take this path?
I will talk about one that I had to experience, not for me, but somebody else, because I was the one doing the hiring. And I remember being told, could you consider men more, consider a younger man more, put the women a little bit behind, but I'm saying, you're saying this to me, yet I'm a woman and I'm looking to hire, shouldn't you at least say, let's hire the best kind of thing? And so I was told, because of the kind of work we're doing, you're working on services that have to be available 24/7. You're doing operations, which means you also have to come in at whatever time you're called. And so the concern was a mother at home, she's not going to want to leave her child at home to come to the data center to go and fix something that's broken. And so I was told, make sure it's a guy. If it's a lady, if she's really, really, really good, make sure maybe she doesn't have any kids. And while we were having the conversation, I was thinking, maybe I should be rebellious and say, am I allowed to swear? F it, I'm going to take her anyway. And make sure it works. And I'll put this on myself and make sure it works, which I'm thinking I should have done. But I didn't, because I was now looking at merit. I was also looking at making sure that whoever I choose is actually qualified for the job. But I almost did that because I felt offended on the women's behalf. And I think much later, I made up for it. I think we were interviewing again, and one of the strongest candidates we had is a mother. I'm not a mother myself, but yeah, so I had, she was a mother, she has 2 kids. And one of the panelists with me said, when the candidate left, said, oh, she's so emotional, or she has kids. I think it's going to derail her from the job and everything. So this time around, I actually put my foot down and said, no, I'm actually an emotional person myself, but you won't see that. And I still find a way to work around it. And just because she's a mother doesn't mean she doesn't deserve same opportunity as everybody else. What if she's the breadwinner at her home? So I say, if she has any challenges, I will take care of it. I'll be accountable for anything in her regard. You will never hear anything about her slacking on the job or anything. So I took it upon myself and said, we're going to hire her. After all, she's going to be reporting to me. So I'll make sure that she performs well. I'll make sure that she does well, and you'll never hear anything about her. So, so we hired her eventually, and I think the weekend before her first day, because I wasn't going to be there on the day she reports to work, I gave her a call and I say to her, I need you to do me a favor and make sure that I made the right decision. Please do that for me. I didn't tell her about the conversation we had after her interview, but I said, do me a favor and make sure that you prove that I made the right decision. And indeed she did. And I get to sit with some other ladies here as well, like Michelle, my friend here. She's a mother, she's an engineer. She had a very challenging job. I think she still does now, but she still manages to balance both her work life and her family as well, and still have as much time for her family. So yeah.
So
Thank you
sorry,
for that.
before the
Yeah.
others speak, I wanted to, you know, it really makes me, it disheartens me to hear women have to defend why emotions are good. You know, do men not have families? Do men not have kids that they must go home to? It's very disheartening. Every time we have women in tech panel, I'm always like, why do women have to say all these things, you know? But I think if we look at it from an excuse perspective, the first excuse used to be women are not good engineers, right? And I'm hoping that no one in this room still believes that women are not good engineers. And then it went from that and became, you know, they can't do their best because they have to go see their families at some point, right? And I think there we have to say, why aren't men also going to see their families? So we have better family dynamics and everyone can work in whatever position they have. Then the third excuse became, we're not retaining them. It's, you know, we don't want to change the way we hire or do anything, but they're not staying, right? And so I feel like we have to have wider conversations. You know, I always say, at least to the tech people I work with, that the era for smart assholes is over, right? You have to bring more than technical skills to a team. Good team dynamics, emotion, empathy has to be there. And if we don't have that expectation, we will continue to ask women, you know, are you bringing other women to the table? Are you, you know, how are you managing your work? I never say I have kids on a panel. Never. Why is it relevant for you to know that I have kids on this panel, right? But we always expect women to explain their lives. And why don't we ask, engineers who are male? I'm glad you asked Ghislain about his daughter. That's very uncommon, but he's on a woman in tech panel, so you get those questions too. But I think we need to also change the way we discuss these things to say, how are we hiring better? What are the team dynamics? And the tech bro culture still remains, and it might be very different on the continent, but there's also an expectation, hey, women should be less direct with feedback. Women should, and women spend a lot of time fixing problems and not saying anything and letting people take the credit just for peace. And so if we have better conversations about team dynamics, hiring practices, and also saying to team leaders, you are also, because I come from a academic background, and right now we're struggling to hire, we're about to launch a degree in business analytics, and we're struggling to hire female lecturers and other subject managers. And I ask constantly the vice chancellor, I'll say, hey, so how many women candidates do we have? And if he says 0, I say, whose fault is that? Why aren't we attractive to women for them to come to work for us? And I think those are the questions that at the systems level we should be asking. And I know this is a positive panel, so I'll let everyone else be positive and talk about those experiences. But systems levels, I think we're not going to change the conversation. And there's a lot of things going on in the different, Nigeria, Kenya, and our bigger countries on the continent have many more engineers of both genders. But the question always remains the expectation of society that you must go home. You must be also a good mother. But the expectations of good fathers will help balance that. You should be also going home to see your kids.
Hear, hear. I just wanted to pick up also on what Isabel was saying about how, it's a very good story of showing what you can do to support someone, but at the same time, the amount of pressure you put on yourself and on that woman. I don't know about you, but I've worked with a lot of very mediocre men who've never had that pressure to perform and who's done quite well, in life. So if we expected that from everyone, then fine. But, why should we expect, I think, a lot of women put that pressure on themselves even before they apply for the job. There's this sort of classic that, if you read a job ad, you're a man and you sort of meet 50% of the criteria, you'll apply. While, even if you're a woman, if you meet 100% of the criteria set out, then you will apply, And I think, even having worked in this industry for a long time, I see that in myself as well. If there's I'll always find that one thing that, I don't know if I can do that, so I won't apply. But I wanted to take this on because you were also talking about, keeping women in the industry. And one of the things we discussed during lunch was also that, this is a very dynamic industry and there's a lot changing. And even if you look at sort of what was used to be a traditional peering manager role, that used to be a very purely technical network engineer role. But if you look at those people filling those roles today, it's a very different role. You have to have a little bit of technical knowledge. You have to have a little bit of business management knowledge. You need to be able to speak to people. You need to be, that it's quite a broad skill set. And I'm wondering, well, two things. So one is that sometimes when we talk about the tech industry, we always just think about that one programmer, And I think there's a problem with how we speak about the tech industry as if the tech industry is only that one programmer. But then I'm wondering the fact that these roles are changing and companies are changing and these roles are broadening. Do you think that will actually also open up for more people to come into the industry?
Yes, I would say it's that perspective is really important for everyone to understand that it's not only the programmer, the one who's in the router and so on and so forth, but it is the whole community and time that will take for us really to remove those kind of myths and misconception. Probably I wanted to contribute on the professional side. I've been fortunate to work with great ladies, Grace being here, when I was in RICTA and back again in my previous positions. I think my take on this is trying to change the world around you as much as you can. And for example, if she needs to go and pick the kids or she needs to do this and she can't make an assignment or a work or particularly something, you cover up. So you always put in place systems that will make sure that everyone is at ease, and you don't have to say, I can't hire a person who is this or this or this or this or that. So I believe that it takes to be intentional and really to promote the colleagues that we have around ourselves and the different challenges that we all have at a certain point in our lives and so on and so forth. So it may come at the expense of us delayed growth. Let's say we needed to do this and that, but we can't do that because the team is shaped in one way or the other. So we need really to be cognizant of the growth. It's not at the expense of the human people who are working in the company, and accept to grow gradually, organically, but accommodating everyone. So it requires to be intentional.
Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be a broader conversation about whether it's the systems that we have that make it so that we do not retain the women or get more women in tech. But I think the conversation also needs to be brutally honest. I think sometimes we go and preach about how, oh yeah, take careers, go, 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 go. But we also have to realize that women's lives are complex. To the contrary of Nathalie, I like to say that I have kids on the panel because I want it to be demystified. Just because I have kids does not mean that I cannot deliver. I may not be able to deliver or answer your emails between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. because I'm taking care of bedtime, but I will respond to you when I get to it, right? And so I think those are also conversations that need to happen to demystify how things are done or when they're done. Because actually just recently with COVID, I think we've learned that things can be done differently, right? I don't need to be at work from 9 to 5 to be able to deliver. I can deliver from home as long as we have clear deliverables that I'm delivering on. So that's also something that I hope is going to be a good opportunity for us to be able to retain a lot of the women. Just offering flexi hours would make a huge difference, right? For women to stay in the technical roles. Understandably, there are some roles that will require you to be there in person a lot longer. But the season of having young kids is not eternal either. It's a short season, right? So it's not that those two are mutually exclusive. But it does take, just as Ghislain was saying, a support system, even at the office, that is created that makes that possible. I do remember when I was pregnant with my first child, I was very sick and missing work a lot. And I was feeling very, very guilty about it because, you know, you're used to performing at 150% again to prove that you're equal to your male counterparts. And all of a sudden you're like 20% max, right? And I remember going to my boss and apologizing, and I'm like, I need to reset your expectations. I won't be able to perform the way you need me to because I physically cannot. And I remember him reassuring me and telling me that I'm not the first pregnant woman he's dealt with at the office. He knows that it's a season that I go through and that I will be able to perform later on. And that encouraged me to stay with the company. And that made a big difference. That was probably 4 years ago that we had the conversation, and it stuck with me. So it really is important for us to be mindful of the dynamics of what is the society that we live in, or just simply those things that motherhood requires of you. So alongside being an engineer and performing at 150%, you still need to deliver 150% at home as well. So, so there needs to be an honest conversation that you need a system in place and tools for you to be able to successfully juggle all the parts of your life that you need to juggle. Yeah, so that would be my input to that.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. I mean, I think what the challenging, one of the challenges when you talk about the challenges of women in tech is also that it's so broad. So it's very easy to you know, you can talk about one particular aspect, the recruitment process, or you can say, you know, getting girls to choose STEM education, but there are many, many different things that need to happen, both on a societal level, on organizational levels, and then also on individual levels. And I'm thinking that, you know, maybe we cannot all change society here today, but when it comes to individual levels or organizational levels, what do you think, you know, the main, if you would give from your experience, the main piece of advice you would give to someone who is in a position to change something on an organizational level, but also on a personal level, or if you're a manager, or what pieces of advice would you give to them that, you know, if you do this, these three things or these few things would actually really make a difference, or it's made a difference to me, or if you have any examples like that, or things that someone has done, or cultures you've been in that have been very discouraging, you know, very concrete things that you'd like to share.
There's something, I think we had this conversation on Monday, and one of the things I said is, I love how men can be so daring. And I think we also need to be able to implement the same. A guy will go through a job description, and even if he meets maybe 20 or 40% of the requirements, he's going to say, I can do this. And he'll call his friends who may be as skilled in the remaining maybe 60%, and get them to get him up to speed. I've seen this happen because I've mostly worked with guys, and he'll bullshit his way until he gets things working and done. I think we need to do the same thing. And yes, we need to do the same thing. I think we also need to learn how to be daring and be very confident and bold and say, yes, I can do it. I think we need to have more yes in our vocabulary than, oh my goodness, I don't think I'll handle that. They're asking for this and that. I don't think it's going to work out. I think we need to be more daring. We should also learn how to be good bullshitters as well. As women, because then it will help us grow. I mean, you see a guy that's growing through the ranks so fast, and you're finding out, oh, how is he doing it? No, he's being daring about it. So I think we need to implement the same as women, and stop complaining too much, whining. One of my mantras is, do not complain unless you're doing something about it. So I think,
Good mantra.
yeah.
Can I just quickly piggyback on what she said? I think we really need to take that piece of advice from men and learn to be more daring. I do remember there was one position at work that my bosses were trying to get me to apply to, and I was like, I kind of feel like I'm not fully qualified for it. Then my boss told me, do you know how many men who have applied for this job, and I know I can't take any of them because they're not qualified? And I was like, oh, they did? Well, maybe I'll try, right? But I think that took a nudge from someone else to do. So I think already as women, we have a tendency of, unless we can deliver perfection from the get-go, we'll stay away from it until we can. And I'd like to encourage us women that perfection is not achieved overnight. And just as designing the perfect product takes time, it takes several iterations before you get to the final product, so is a career, right? And so I think we need to really be daring, as Isabel was saying, and get into that. But to your point on what to say to, one, encourage men who are in the field. I think for me, for women, I'd say identify relatable models for you. I think sometimes we want to pick the CEO, but then she looks like she has achieved so much and I don't see how I'm gonna get there. So maybe pick a woman who's 2-3 steps ahead of you, who's freshly come out of what you've come through. And that will most likely be the person to guide you through the season that you're in. And for the women, for the men, what I would say is to seek out opinions differing to your ones, right? So don't dismiss a woman on your team because you don't understand what her dynamic looks like. I remember, again, after my first child, I struggled with mommy brain very seriously. I didn't know it was a real thing until I had it, and I would walk into meetings, expect to remember everything on the way out, and I'd have forgotten everything. And I struggled very much with that. And it wasn't until my husband saw me struggle with that he started understanding women on his team that were forgetful. It's like, okay, so it's a season that they're going through. You just need to adapt and find tools that help you through that season, and then you can get back on track later on. So I think it's also very important for men to seek out various opinions, be part of these conversations, of these panels, and that always gives you a more broader, well-rounded perspective on how to better manage your team and better retain the women on your team. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share on the what can we do. So I guess okay, I sit on one of the local banks board, the Development Bank of Rwanda, and some of the things that we are trying to put across to the people that are borrowing money is when they give performance, it's not about return on investment, how much money, interest rate, and so on and so forth. So there is, we're trying as much as possible as well to have data about how many women were they able to take as interns, as employees, and have that back in their mind that they as well have to extend the mindfulness of being encompassing everyone and not leaving the woman behind. So among the performance, that as well can be there, but I don't see it as a long-term thing. I see it as a phase where you put incentives. Let's say if you have XY amount or percentage of women, then probably you can get an interest rate, which is at this point, and it works. Up until where the mindset will change, and then probably from there you will take other steps and going forward. Incentives probably will happen in this phase, and then probably later on that can be helpful. So that's in a bank, in tech, in other sectors, incentives can be defined, and we take it from there. I believe it can be helpful.
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to open up the floor actually to the audience a little bit. I'm going to, for those of you who missed the start, at the end, I'm going to ask all the panelists for 3 commitments that they can make to support them, that you might already be, fulfilling, or that you're committing to do, to help sort of reduce the challenges for women in tech. But I'm also encouraging everyone in the audience to think about that, even if anyone wants to come up at the end and share that as well at the microphone, that'd be great. But at this point, I'll open up the floor for any questions to the panelists from anyone from the audience. Have we solved women in tech already? Can we go home? Please, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Huja. I'm from the Virtual University of Senegal, and I am the founder of Senchix, which is the Senegalese chapter of AfChix. I see that there is so many initiatives about tech women, such as AfChix. We have girls in ICT. We have women in DNS, we have IETF sisters, and I'm a member of all these initiatives. And my question is, how can we collaborate to have one initiative that involves all these women in tech to help other women in the other sectors to have better lives using digital. I think we as women in tech, in digital technology, we need to do something for other women. and it should be our first goal. So my question is how can we collaborate within this community, that women in tech community, to help other women? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone want to talk about that? I know several of you are exactly involved with that in your area.
I can take that because I'm actually the president of Girls in ICT Rwanda chapter. So I'm very glad to hear that you're a sister in IT. One of the efforts that we have to sort of coordinate the efforts across Africa is through Smart Africa. One of the events we have, there's the Women's Summit that happens via Transform Africa. And one of the main activities that we organize as Girls in ICT is the Miss Geek competition. So it's really a competition geared towards getting girls in their community, so who are maybe not necessarily tech, but can see a way to resolve needs in their community using digital tools. And they compete and basically get the top 3 awarded at the summit, but also they go on to get internships that facilitate the implementation of their projects. So that's one avenue that we have to coordinate the Girls in ICT efforts across the Smart Africa countries. For now, I think it's about 17 countries so far, but we're looking forward to looking at other avenues where we can further explore that. So I'm happy to get in touch with you at the end of this session.
Can I say, I think it's a very good question. And it's a question I used to ask myself when I worked at a Pan-African level. Part of the weakness that a lot of networks have is not having clear goals on the advocacy and policy side. So, and it's very hard. Women are coming together on their own. They're spending their money oftentimes, and they're doing a lot of work to support girls in their community, you know, and so these are networks that are supporting or sometimes filling in the gap of non-existent programs, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're asking them to do that, then you're asking them to network together and help each other the same way that, you know, men do on a golf course. And then you're also asking them to do policy and advocacy change. So sometimes it's a lot to ask of networks. But, you know, recently I was, you know, a lot of women in tech organizations would say, hey, become a member. And I would always say, you know, how can we actually take a lot of, and you know, you're asking me to do this woman, and I won't name the name, and I'm already part of this other woman in tech thing, and I'm already part of this other woman, and, you know, how can we, you know, merge some of these and do better at these 3 goals, which is the first one is to help young women or girls come into these fields and stay in these fields and be exposed to the careers, internships, et cetera, like you guys are doing through the Smart Africa. How can we do the networking and making sure that women are talking to one another and making deals, right? Becoming entrepreneurs and making deals. And then third, how can we push the envelope on how these things are funded and the policies that are made, right? So for me, strong networks should have the 3 and also seek out funding. Me, I'm always like, you know, why aren't we asking for money? There's so many people giving out money. Why aren't we getting some of that money to do these things? And so I feel like we definitely should have better conversations around, can we put, because somehow people think that women don't have egos. Can we set aside our egos and merge some of our organizations to take us to the next level, right? And I think it is a really valid question to have. How can we do more at scale to affect some of this change?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, please, go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Marvin. I'm from Uganda with the National Council for Science and Technology. My question to possibly all the panelists is the traditional way, and I'm coming from a policy background, it's been affirmative action for the ladies. We need, if there are 10 jobs, at least 2 must be for the ladies. And when we still have these conversations, it means that that approach is actually not working, or it has not worked to the desired levels. So the question I want to put to all of you panelists is, what is the disruption to the current system? How do we ensure that all these interventions that are being put in place to elevate the participation, the involvement of the women are actually bearing fruit to the extent that is desired? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very big question. I guess that's why we're here. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, there are many touch points. Nathalie mentioned about the system. So there are many interventions on many systems, many touch points. I believe that we need to be resilient and continue so that at least we make this generation bear the fruits that is expected. But probably in the next generation, we'll see things being different. It's a conversation that has started a few years ago. Making everything change over probably 1 or 2 decades is very difficult, but we see things changing and moving, and I believe let's be consistent and not be discouraged that there are not things that are happening. That's the only comment I have. Let's be consistent, let's continue, let's keep on moving and touching all those points. If there is any point that is not touched, let it be known, and at least we will see people rising and touching those aspects.
Can I also add to it?
Please.
I also think it should be an end-to-end process. Some of these companies that say, I would like to take 2 women out of maybe 6 candidates, and then the rest be men. Some of them do it just to fill the whole diversity and inclusion, that kind of thing that everybody's talking about. But then when the women get in, they're left to dry and maybe given a hard time while at work. So I think it should be an end-to-end process. If you're going to take them on, be very intentional about it. Some of these companies also talk about growth and development of their staff. Yes, you're going to say, okay, let's take the ladies on. Let's try to develop them, see them grow, see them get better, because at the end of the day, like we talked about, yes, we are a minority group. So let's make sure it's, even if it's minority, it's fun, it's strong. So it should be an end-to-end process. If you're going to start it, if you're going to say this, we're going to take these women, follow the process till the end, make sure that at the end of it all, she's grown, she's developed. And then also at the end of it all, she looks to encourage others. I know I had a very hectic experience. It wasn't so great. I don't think you should, I wouldn't encourage you to take it on or whatever. So I think that's where it should start from. And then also the ladies who've got an opportunity to go through that process and it's been swift for you, do the same for others as well. Women can be mean sometimes, guys. So I think we should also be nice, be kind, help each other. And even those that have made it and are almost on the same level, see how you can help each other do better. Say, okay, hearing, I heard about this and that. Is it something you'd be interested in doing? Let's try this out together. And I think that's something I think that would really help.
Yeah, thank you. Really interesting, because also I think what you're touching upon there is that it's very easy to think that you'll fix one thing and then, okay, we've done our diversity, or we hired a woman, okay, now we're good. But of course, unless you make that environment welcoming and unless you then create a path for that person to grow, then, you haven't changed anything. And if you only have one woman, then that person will always be in a minority as well. So maybe trying to find, general diversity in the group will make, everyone feel a little bit more part of that group. So,
can I say something on that?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to answer the question that's being asked, which is, what should we do if affirmative action is not working? And I believe affirmative action is working, because if we did not have affirmative action, women would not actually be hired at all. And so if it's not affirmative action versus culture, it's affirmative action and culture. So the culture that means, I always ask people, instead of asking the question, hey, why aren't women applying? You should say, why aren't women or female candidates interested in working for us? I think that's the wider question. What is it about the culture of our organization, the culture of what we're doing, that is not attractive for female candidates, right? And so affirmative action is important. We've seen that in Rwanda, it has changed the game for us. You know, even recently when they said 30% of boards must be female, because I'm always, there's always a view that somehow affirmative action means the women who are on there are not qualified. And I think that's very important. Affirmative action is very important. It's saying, go and find the qualified women who can work on this. But the second point there is you have to change the culture so women are actually interested in working for your organization. And that's a deeper systems culture issue. Why aren't women coming to work for us? And if people don't want to do that, they want to say, hey, it's because, you know, women have to go home at 5 p.m. or women, you know, have babies. And actually not all women are married or have babies or want to, right? So why aren't women interested in working for my organization? And that's a wider culture issue beyond affirmative action. I still believe in affirmative action. When I ran a prestigious fellowship, scientific fellowship, the first year we had to do it, we had an international scientific committee and we wanted 15 candidates, 40% women, right? This is all science. They were building, you know, the type of things that are impressive for anyone globally, right? The type of systems and all sciences, so not just traditional tech. And I chased women, literally that was my job. I chased really strong candidates and said, apply. Like you said, little nudge, oh, trust me, the men who are on here, you got them, just apply for this fellowship. The first year we got 40%, but we just slithered by. And it was such a painful and long experience to get 40%. Second, it was every 2 years. Second year of the cohort of that fellowship, we already got 50-50 applications. So we had already women applying because they see other women, super candidates, and they're like, I want to be that. That is a fellowship that I want to join. Third cohort, we had more female candidates. We used to have an A, B, and C levels when we were looking at their files. More women in the A's. So we actually hit our 40% with the committee that was selecting them, like the first session, 40%. And then we were like, oh, we were excited, like, are we gonna get to 50? But the point is women have to see other women and say, wow, look at the qualifications of the women who are becoming fellows. I wanna do that. And so they might not be the next cohort, but 3 or 4 cohorts down the line, the woman will be like, I'm joining that fellowship. I'm joining that organization. So they have to see that the culture has space for them. And so the question to always ask, why aren't women joining your organization?
I love that. I think it's a really good point, also putting the responsibility actually back on the organization. But I also think this part about role models doesn't just apply to women. It applies to all of us. If we don't see people who are like ourselves in those positions, we're most likely not going to go for those positions. So I think there are some very interesting, valid points there. I think, Michelle, did you have something?
Sorry, just a quick question from someone who's online. This is from Samuel Karaoke. He asks, what are the available opportunities or avenues in the societies that can help bridge the gap? And what mechanisms can be deployed to enlighten the women of the available opportunities? Because maybe a lot of people are doing stuff, but the women don't know where to go and get the help. So how can we help them get that?
I can start. I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly, but from what I understand is what opportunities are there to enable having more women in the fields and helping support them to stay in the field.
And also letting them, how do we get them to know the opportunities are there?
Okay.
You might be looking.
Okay. So one, I think we do have a lot of women groups, as correctly pointed out, that probably need to join forces. So there is a lot of, I think online is the best avenue. Online is the best avenue. Just probably search tech women in my area. You'll find something, guarantee you. Now, that's as far as getting to know what opportunities there. I think once you're in the circle, it's also easier to get to know where openings are, for example, and what companies offer, what benefits, etc. But as far as opportunities that I think organizations can leverage on in order to interest women to work and stay in their organizations. We've talked about flexi hours. It's not a new concept. It's a concept that's been applied in several other countries, right? So that's an easy way, a quick win to implement in your organization that allows the women in the organization to stay and to feel valued and to still feel like they don't have to give up their work to be able to succeed in their homes as well. So that's just one example, but I'm pretty sure there's several others. She talked about benefits that Google offers to entice women to stay in the organization. And there are several other incentives as well. So I'm not sure if I've answered the question, but if anybody else wants to take it on.
I also think women need to talk more about, so women, we want to downplay our achievements, and it's very hard. Even myself, when I used to be on media a lot, and when they would ask me personal questions, I would literally shut down the media interview. Like, ask me about work and I will, go. But if you say, hey, what about yourself? I'd be like, it's uncomfortable, don't be up in my business. So I do think that women who are building incredible technology or running products or need to be out there. And it helps other women say, hey, I want to do that. And I mean that in terms of the exposure of careers and achievements and things that you can actually do. And the problem is nobody wants to be like, and it's funny because you talked about the mean women. I've had a different experience. I've had incredible experiences with women, and I hope I'm an incredible woman to other women. But I think the idea is that if you see a woman on media several times and she's building, and especially with what's her name, the scandal, who built a false company in the US, what's Elizabeth Holmes, she's ruined it for the rest of us. But like, it's people think that if women are talking and in media, oh, she's bragging. She's bragging about herself. Oh, and that mindset means that the rest of us, none of us want to talk about anything that we've actually built. And then women don't hear about these opportunities and what can I do and these role models. So I would say that women, particularly who are leading teams and who are building interesting things and who are running systems and doing incredible things, view it as like your public service to talk about the work that you're doing and the things that you've been able to accomplish. That's like my little pep talk now to female leaders in the tech space. Do it for the others, not for yourself.
I had the same, we discussed the same thing that you're talking about, bragging about ourselves. And for 3 years, Michelle, myself, and Portia have been trying to figure out how we can kind of work that out. Because we know for sure it's very difficult. Women find it hard to go and brag about themselves. So I thought, okay, maybe if we create a platform where we get to brag about each other, I think it's easier. If someone says all these amazing things about you, it's easier and it makes you hold on. Sometimes if someone else does it for you, it's easier to believe than when you do it yourself sometimes. But because it's very difficult for us to come up and start bragging about ourselves, I think we should learn to also try to brag about each other. I like how some people will, what guys do sometimes is, let's say I meet you for the first time through somebody, and then they'll say, oh, meet Izzy, she does this and that, she does this and that. I think you guys would make good connections with each other, see how you can work together kind of thing. So I think we need to have more platforms like that to help us with growing. And like you mentioned as well, the women at the top find a way of doing it for the ones that are below. That way we get to uplift the ones that are trying and make them feel like it's so cool to be a woman in tech.
And
nice
just
one.
maybe, sorry.
Yeah, we are just a very quick comment. We are reaching the top of our hour. So yeah, please go ahead with that. And we'll take a last question around that.
No, just quickly, I wanted to speak on the flip side of, we need to brag about ourselves and have, others brag about us and us brag about other girls. Yes, but I think we also need to disrupt the culture of assuming that a woman succeeding has some sort of negative connotation. She must be failing somewhere for her to succeed at some other place. I think we just need to change that general culture as well of making even that necessary. I mean, my career and CV should speak for itself as well at some point, right? So I think that's the end goal that we're trying to get to. And so we really need to change that culture, whether it's in our societies, our homes, and yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I think we've run out of time, but we'll take one more quick question, and then I'm still going to ask everyone to share one thing that they're committing or that they want to do to help reduce the challenges of women in tech. And I would like to have at least 4 people up at the microphone. So we're not going to end the session until we have 4 people up at the microphone. So please go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Martin Waituba. I'm the founder and CEO of ICT Embedded Uganda Limited. From Uganda. Our country has done pretty good on the women emancipation front. This I can count since 1993 when we had 1.5 points given to girls to encourage them to, you know. I have to say today we have the Vice President, Prime Minister, and you know, one key thing I want to comment, and I'm saying this for my daughters, for my young sisters, what women need is mindset, strengthening your mindset. Why, whatever you see, the previous speaker hinted on it, the bullshitting and etc. Whatever you see in life, it's about the mind. You must train yourself to win. You must be able to configure your brain to suit the output. I think that's the takeaway to put it. And even if it's young girls, let them play games, let them play chess, let them play strategy games, let them play the things you think are hard, subject them to that so that they know that you have to win. And if you have to win, it's up to you how you win. Because you have to target an output, a result. So I've seen this. It doesn't matter whether a woman is the vice president or the president. If he has not mastered the mind, it doesn't matter. So master the mind. I give this advice to the young ones and all across the whole scope. Thank you very much. My pledge as a CEO of ICT Embedded is to endeavor to hire more girls and to give them a platform to compete favorably. I don't give a quota that 2 out of 10 should be ladies. No, come show me that you can compete favorably.
Wonderful. And I hope that means that you're also creating that environment when they can be those and put their name forward without being criticized for it, but actually encouraging them. So that's very positive to hear. Thank you.
Yes.
So I think we've reached the end, but I still only see one person at the microphone. So please, yes, get up. I think we need 2 more people to share their commitments. Please, I encourage you all to get up, and I will start then actually by Izzy. Maybe you can start by sharing one thing that, one commitment that you take on.
Okay, so because I work remotely and I barely meet with my team and everybody, so my commitment is every time we come to these meetings, to look for a newcomer, young lady, that I can work with. Obviously, if she is up for it or open to it, and work with her. One thing I used to really admire about what ISOC used to do at these kind of meetings in the beginning, especially for the fellows that they brought in, and mostly they encouraged women. But what they did is it didn't end at that. What they would do is they would assign each person a mentor for the entire time they are attending the meetings. And if they wanted to, they would carry on even after the meeting and remain their mentor and feel great. It's something that has worked for me, I think, at the IETF, because IETF can be really, for first comers, it can be really, it's an interesting experience. There's so much going on. There's so many people out there that have done amazing things that might seem a little bit intimidating or something. So what ISOC could do, assign us a mentor, and it was up to you to ask that mentor to continue mentoring you even after the meeting. So I commit to meeting the newcomers, the meeting, and asking them if they would like to work together and see how they can grow.
Fantastic, thank you. very quickly. We have to be very, very fast now. So please, if you can do it in the fastest speed possible.
I think my commitment is as a father, as a parent, is continue to raise the family, the kids equally, and making sure that the girls will never feel like they are diminished or put apart. As a professional, I think my commitment is to continue to be that partner they can, count on whenever they need, so that they don't feel like they are separated from the whole organization. And again, as Nathalie was mentioning, ensuring that the organization where we are or where I work is really attractive and making women or girls want to go and work there. That will be my commitment. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Ghislain.
And I think for me, I'll take the easy way out, which is to commit to make my organization more appealing for women. So I think that was a really good challenge from Nathalie, and I'll take that on. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I'm interested in, what you were saying is very, what she was saying about, Gaëlle was saying about how do you do the remote work, the types of work that attract women. And I've been working a lot on, so at my organization, besides the roles that are academic that are required by our regulator, we have been testing out not using degrees, right? Which is maybe in the US and other parts of the world have already been something that companies have been doing, but here in Rwanda, everybody wants at least a bachelor's degree, right? And for certain type of positions, we were seeing that our culture, people could not come into our culture because they had, I don't know, the degree was, I don't know, the people with degrees were not doing so well. So we've been testing out the removal of the degree as the requirement and looking more at the experiences and what they've done in our interviews and do they pass culture. And in that way, we've seen much more women apply. And so I'm committed to doing more of that and also to work with other organizations to see how we can do that as a group and see if that has better outcomes.
Super. Thank you so much. There were some people at the microphone. I also know that we are running out. Can we squeeze in two? Is that okay?
Mine is a question.
Yes, please.
I have a question.
I'm sorry. I don't think we have time for any more questions. Could I ask that you come and look us up after the session? I don't want to take up more of from Yolandi's time, who's following us. So I'll come and seek you out afterwards. Yes, please, Eddie.
Commitment.
Yes.
Commitment from AfNOG for the women in tech. You have someone at AfNOG with a big ear to listen to your projects. I would like to see us more on this side of the sponsors. And we've been doing a lot and really want to do more for women. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And thank you for your patience as well, as we have been going over time, but I thought it was a really interesting discussion. So thank you so much to the panelists for all your good insights. And I hope this discussion continues. And I hope next year when we're here, we will have reduced a little bit of those challenges. I don't think we're committing to removing them all, but at least chipping away at them. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was a fantastic panel. And if anyone wants to continue the conversation with the ladies, they will be around during the coffee break. So please feel free to continue. Lovely. Thank you very much, everyone. And now we have another fantastic woman in technology to finish off this session. Handing over to Yolandi. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I can see all the tired eyes. Are you guys still awake in the room? It doesn't sound like it. Cool. So again, hi, everyone. I'm Yolandi Cloete. I am from NAPAfrica, and I'm the interconnection and peering specialist. And today I will be presenting something. So we will see how it goes. I think this is the old slides at the back. Again, we will see what I will be presenting. Anyone want to tell us a story while we wait? Oh, I don't have stories. How many of you, right? Yeah. The lady that had the question on the side, do you maybe want to ask while we wait? Please, everyone wants to hear the question. She's just getting her voice.
Good day, everyone. I am Bonson, and an advocate working with Global Trade Law Chambers here in Kigali. And yesterday, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with these young students studying IT and all that. And she was asking me for advice on how she could go about her career in the future, even though she's just starting. And I'm more of a lawyer, so I really did not have a lot to tell her. So while our leaders were talking, I just wanted to find out from them what advice they have to give young women who aspire to be great in this tech profession as they grow. Thank you.
Do we maybe have any of the panelists in the room that would like to answer?
Thank you. At the risk of repeating myself, I think it's very important to find mentors in the field, first of all, because it could be discouraging when you work in the field with people that don't look like you. I think that's just a minority issue, regardless of what the field is. So one, find a mentor, but make sure that it's a mentor that is also relatable to you. That's my second point. I think sometimes we idealize people at the top, but it takes a lot to get to the top. So maybe start with women who are 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, right? And then those can help you work the journey that you're in. And then you can later on get mentored by a CEO or a coach who's achieved much greater as well. So really my advice is to find a mentor, to stay plugged into the field, and to find a relatable mentor to that, right? Who can help you work that journey, 1, 2, or 3, and particularly peers as well. That's a very important group to have around you as well. So I hope that's answered your question. Thank you.
Just to add that, unfortunately, a lot of CEOs don't end up doing a lot of building, right? You unfortunately don't do a lot of building. So if they really want to build things and work in very technical fields, I would say that they should search for other women in technical fields and look up to them, because at the top you're unfortunately not building, and it's, I was going to say boring, but it's different than the technical fields.
Sorry. Yeah, just that. Is this everyone's first event, in-person event? How many people, how many of you, this is the first time you've traveled to a in-person event since COVID? Oh, there's quite a few hands. That's good. I'm just making small talk. Yeah, no, that doesn't count.
Let's cut and go.
Okay. Due to some technical difficulties, which I'm not really sure what they are, we're going to go for our coffee break. And when we return, we will make sure Yolandi has her opportunity to give us her presentation. And everyone, if you could try and be back in the room and seated by 4 o'clock, that would be fantastic. Thank you.